and welcome back to the MMA India Show with me, host Parvin Dabas, and MMA Guru Akhilesh Gannavarapu, who is with us via Skype again. Welcome back, Akhilesh.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks
for having me. Always a pleasure.
इस हफ्ते हमारे पास बहुत मसाला है, बहुत ज्यादा मसाला है, इतना मसाला है कि मेरा सर चकरा रहा है. आपका सर चकरा रहा है?
थोड़ा बहुत.
ओके, थोड़ा बहुत. अभी हम बात करेंगे तो चकराना शुरू हो जाएगा, क्योंकि इस हफ्ते दो फाइट नाइट्स हैं, दो UFC फाइट नाइट्स हैं. एक बेलाटोर का मेन कार्ड है, एक इन्विक्टा FC का मेन कार्ड है. प्लस हमने कमारू उस्मान के साथ एक एक्सक्लूसिव इंटरव्यू भी किया है. एंड ऑल्सो ब्रेव फाइट्स ने अपना एक प्रेस कॉन मुंबई में किया है. तो we're going to cover all of these topics and we will start right now with UFC Fight Night Bader versus Antonio Nogueira, which is a rematch of a fight they had in 2011, right?
2010, I think. 2010. 10-11.
10-11. Okay. ना आपकी ना मेरी 10-11 बोल देते हैं. Yeah. So Bader, of course, won the first time around, and another interesting fact is Bader is going to become a free agent after this fight.
Right.
You know, a lot of fighters testing the free agent markets.
Right. I think that's always a good thing. That's always a good thing for a fighter, especially now that, you have more MMA promotions cropping up. In US itself, you recently even had Combat Americas that started. So the more the promotions, the better it is for the fighter.
Do you think, of course, fighter pays are on the rise. Do you think it's a smart thing to but let it go for some time? Because I know our friend Lawrence Larkin, who's been on the show, turned into a free agent and hasn't got a deal yet.
So he is still talking with the UFC officials. The only thing, so as a fighter, you need to kind of, see where you want to go. Because I'm pretty sure Bellator would have offered him a deal. But what he has told us even before was that, I have 3 months to work a deal out with the UFC. So it's not that I won't talk to different organizations, but my primary objective is to work out a better deal with the UFC.
Yeah, and it's to stay with them, of course.
Right, stay with UFC itself.
But UFC, as we know, are really good at bargaining and negotiating.
Now that you have a different management coming in, you have the WME IMG people coming in, and they obviously have different ideas. Yeah. They've already let go several UFC top officials. So maybe their end of bargaining is kind of different from the previous management. So it's a hardball kind of situation on both the sides. But yeah, for a fighter, it's an interesting period nonetheless.
Yeah, it is with all these fighters. So getting down to the Bader versus Antonio Nogueira fight, do you think this could be, if Antonio loses, this could be the end of Lil Nog? Do you think he'll...
I'm even surprised he's still on the roster, to be honest.
He is coming off of a win over Patrick Cummins, though.
Yes, he has fought 6 times in 6 years, if I'm not wrong. So, and he's 40? He's not young. He's not getting younger.
Yeah.
If you see the life of a fighter, it's 35, 36, and then you're going downhill. So he's about 40.
Yeah.
So a loss for him, I'm pretty sure. Maybe just one more fight in Brazil, but after that, I'm pretty sure it's done and dusted for Lil Nog.
Unless you're Dan Henderson.
Unless you're Dan
Henderson. Unless you can keep on going.
Yes.
So what do you think? How do you see this fight going? Both of them love to stand up. Of course, Nogueira is a black belt in BJJ. Ryan Bader is a well-known wrestler as well, has great wrestling skills.
Right.
I think, but both of them do love to stand up predominantly, though.
Yes. So this is something that I even said before Bader's last fight, where I said, it was a wrestler versus wrestler. It was Bader and Latifi, and both are very good wrestlers, very good grapplers. But I said that technical improvement in Bader's game would, prove to be the difference, which it did. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same case again for this fight. Because you have Bader who has, the thing with Bader is that he has technically improved, even how he sets up his combinations. The way he, he doesn't go for those shoots like he used to do. He kind of telegraphs what his opponent is doing and then kind of, manages to get the distance proper. Then have that good technical hands, which he did not have prior to a couple of years before. So that has come a long way. His striking has come a long way, and I'm pretty sure even for this fight, it's gonna be the major difference.
So how do you see this fight going? Do you have any predictions?
On the ground, as you said, one BJJ practitioner, very good BJJ practitioner, one excellent wrestler. Stand up, Nog has very good hands, packs a lot of power.
But so does Bader.
So I see Bader once again overcoming Little Nog, probably in the second or probably in the third. I don't see it going to decision. I see a clean victory for Bader, probably by a TKO.
Okay. Now moving on, one fighter I want to talk about, Claudia Gadelha, who's just come off the title loss to Joanna. And I want to talk about her because she's kind of cute as well. And she, she's got all of these great social media posts. I think she's doing pretty well promoting herself. She's a good looking girl. And as we know, that always helps in marketing. We're talking about her, and we know nothing about Casey, of course, her opponent. At least I know nothing about Casey. Can you enlighten us?
Yes. So first thing, Claudia is really, really, cute is an understatement. Let me say that, because I met her when she came down to Australia for 193. I talked to her. Very, very intelligent person. She doesn't come across as a kind of, the kind of fighter who talks a lot. Yeah. But, when you really, really give her the impetus, she's a really good talker as well.
But a great fighter. She's, I think, so far given the toughest fight to Joanna so far. And I think Joanna has admitted that.
Yes, and I thought, until that third round, Claudia was clearly winning. Clearly, she took the first, second, and almost the third rounds, but then she started gassing out. Yeah. And one thing we have, known from Joanna's previous fights is that she never gasses out.
Yeah.
Especially coming from that striking background. You thought, maybe someone like Claudia, who's a wrestler, wouldn't gas out, but Claudia is a big wrestler, a big fighter at 115.
Yeah.
So she gassed out while Joanna came back strong in fourth and fifth. Going into this fight, again, Claudia, it's a tune-up fight for Claudia as far as what I can see. Very good wrestling, very good striking. She has again improved tremendously in that striking department. Casey, what might work for her is that she's very scrappy. She's someone that she's a good, striker. She's also a good grappler, but nowhere compared to someone like Claudia Gadelha. So you might see, Casey getting dropped with a couple of combinations, going to the ground where Claudia can easily overpower and use her wrestling to submit her. At the end of the day, again, this is a tune-up fight for Claudia, but you might see a surprise coming if you're Claudia and if you're not taking her seriously. That might be a big mistake on her part.
Yeah. Well, I think Ian McCall was also on the same card and the fight has been cancelled, right?
So this is on the Belfast card, the UFC fight 99.
Yeah.
Right.
Ian McCall is on the other one. Okay.
Right. So the thing is, Ian McCall and Neil Seedy, two of the most unfortunate yet very underrated fighters.
Yeah.
Neil Seedy already said, this is going to be my last fight. I'm going to fight in front of my hometown fans, and after that, I'm hanging up my boots. Ian McCall, whose fight was scrapped twice before, said this might even be my last fight as well. So you had two fighters, two very, very underrated fighters going into the event who would probably be hanging up their boots with this fight. But again, unfortunately, Ian McCall just an hour ago, he started puking. He was admitted to a hospital.
An hour ago at the recording of this show, since we're not going out live. But we're going to go out very soon, within a couple of hours. So by an hour ago, you should take it as 3-4 hours maybe.
Yes. So, and the entire MMA community, it started feeling very bad for Neil Seedy, especially because, he made weight. He always shows up, last fight of his career. And now, he has to bow out probably with only the show up bonus. So, yeah, I mean, that's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah. Yes, well, getting down to the fight, I actually want to talk about Waverly Alves versus Kamaru Usman.
Right.
And maybe we can call him Usman Bhai now. Usman Bhai ka fight देखने का. Usman Bhai का fight एकदम नजदीकी से देखने का, क्योंकि उस्मान भाई ने अभी हमसे बात की है. So let's go to the Kamaru Usman interview where me and Akhilesh spoke to him at length about a lot of things. So here is the interview. Yeah, thanks a lot
Yeah.
for being on our show and agreeing to come on, and congrats on winning. It's been a little while now, the Ultimate Fighter UF 21, and
Thank
of
you.
course your last two fights as well.
By the way, when are you leaving for Sao Paulo? Is it this
South
weekend?
Florida. Am I
Sorry?
leaving?
Yeah.
No, I leave Monday, so in 2 days I leave. Today's Saturday, so I'm leaving on Monday.
Okay, so because we have heard about a lot of fighters. Even a couple of weeks ago, you had the Brazilian fighters who came to United States just a few days before their fights, and they had issues cutting weight. So would that be a problem for you?
No, I mean, for that, you when you have a situation like Mexico City's high elevation,
Yeah.
Right.
and so it takes the body some time to adjust to that, especially if you're there to perform, at a high pace, fight, something like a fight, something that intense. So yeah, it takes the body time to adjust. But I'm going to Brazil. It's maybe an hour or 2 hours difference than here east. The elevation is not really a problem. And so, it's not that big of a change. I've traveled and cut weight before. I wrestled for many years. And so the weight cut is not going to be a problem. If I have to cut a leg off to make the weight, I'm going to do it.
All right, fantastic.
So if I can just jump in with a question about the wrestling, you've mentioned that your family didn't know you were wrestling till they saw you on TV. So how have they responded to it after that? And like now, do they come to see you at the fights and everything?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was, when you're a kid, especially here in the U.S., being an immigrant, my dad wasn't really big into I mean, he liked us to play sports, but as an immigrant, the sports that we love is football, which is soccer.
Yeah.
So, when we came here, my oldest brother was a soccer player. And so if I was gonna play sports, my dad wanted me to do that. And then, he started to realize and get into American sports a little bit more, and he wanted me to do baseball. Obviously, baseball pays a lot more money.
Yeah.
So, that would have been a great route to go. But, as a kid, you can't control what you fall in love with. And I fell in love with wrestling once I started doing it, and I committed myself to it. And so my parents didn't really understand it. They didn't know it. And so that's why they didn't want me to do it. And so I just did it for 2 years, and they didn't realize that I was still doing it and how good I had gotten at the sport. So then when I was wrestling in the district finals, which was on the local TV station, and my mom actually caught that, saw me wrestling there, that's when she realized that, okay, I am getting somewhere with this sport, and I am pretty good at it. But yeah, now they try. My dad actually, came to watch me my senior season at state. He came to watch me, and then when I went to college and I'd go to the big tournaments like the national tournament, he would come and watch. But now my mom doesn't really take to fighting very well, so
Okay.
it's hard for her to watch me.
I don't
Live.
think many moms do, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But she likes to stay home and watch it on TV by herself, so she can scream at the TV and do all the crazy things that moms do when they watch their children perform.
The other interesting that I just wanted to ask you was, you mentioned that you being a wrestler, it won't make much of a difference for you to go to Brazil and get acclimatized sooner. So is that something that all the wrestlers, obviously, with the great cardio and conditioning that comes with the background of wrestling itself, is it something that is common for every a fighter who has a background in wrestling, or is it something that you got acclimatized too quickly because you fought in different countries?
It's I wouldn't say every wrestler, but in the sport of wrestling, it's just every wrestler that has been successful at the highest level. There's a different level that you have to put yourself, a different level that you have to take yourself physically and mentally. to be the best at it, to perform at that level. And so once you've been at that level, you know what it feels like. You know what it takes to get there. And so, you know, most wrestlers that have been on that level can acclimate and make that switch right away. But you know, there are guys that wrestled in, you know, they can say they wrestled in high school, grade school, middle school, but it's not the same thing as the highest level. You know, I've wrestled in India. I've came out to India and wrestled. You know, I've came out to Germany and wrestled. Like, it's, you know,
Wow.
and those times are usually, the process is 2-3 days just to acclimate and then go ahead and go. So, you know, it's another day in the office for me.
So when you came to India, can you tell us a little about, you know, where you trained and fought and which cities? And also, did you come to take a kind of a taste of the Indian style of wrestling? Is that what you came for?
I came when I was wrestling for USA Wrestling, so we did a freestyle. I was there for freestyle wrestling, and I was in, I believe it's Jalandhar, I think.
Jalandhar, right?
Yeah, yeah, I was there, and it was the tournament was Bhagat Singh, I believe, and we had Kumar, who, I mean, if you guys know who Kumar is, Sushil Kumar is,
Yeah, of course.
you know, probably one of the greatest wrestlers in Indian history, and
Yes.
you know, he was there, and it was a glorious event, really nice event. It was wonderful, you know. Of course, you know, it wasn't the Indian style wrestling; it was the freestyle wrestling that, you know, the whole world partakes in. But, you know, I love, you know, the Indian. I was always been the one that loved the Indian culture. Even when I was a child in Nigeria, you know, Indian movies. We used to love Indian movies and watch Indian movies, and so you know, I remember still some of the most famous Indian actors, you know, the action actors back in the day. And so, yeah, I love the culture, and, you know, I indulge in the food. Yes, maybe not the wrestling, but definitely the food and the
Any
culture.
favorite actors you want to name or movies?
I can't remember his name right now, but it's the number one actor. We all know who he is, the action actor that's been in every Indian action movie.
Is it Amitabh Bachchan?
It might be.
Okay.
It might be. It's that, you know, he has that face. It's like the face that you can see on every novel, you know, and things like that. It's just, you can't forget his face.
Okay.
And also, Kamaru, you know, you talked about freestyle wrestling in India. So, you know, I even talked to someone like Josh Barnett, who said, you know, he absolutely loved the Indian Kushti. You know, we call it Kushti wrestling here. So when you came down to India, you know, did you indulge in Kushti, or was it just freestyle that you participated in?
No, it was just freestyle, you know, because we were there for a particular tournament. So it was just freestyle. We didn't have time to just, you know, stay there, live, and experience the other styles and other things. We were there for a mission, which was that tournament, that freestyle tournament.
Now, I want to ask you, after you won the Ultimate Fighter, did your training change in any way? Of course, there's a lot of other things that change with the spotlight that comes with winning that tournament all of a sudden. But did the training regimen change as well? Or were the coaches still putting you through the same training regimen?
They changed a little bit. And the reason I say that is the reason for that is because during that whole show, I was dealing with some major injuries. And, you know, I went through the injuries while on the show. And even after the show, I had a major surgery, which was a quick turnaround. Doctors didn't really think it was enough time for me to turn around and then fight in the finale. But I decided that it was something I was going to do. And, you know, I made it happen. But, you know, since then, you know, those injuries were what prompted the change in training, which was kind of, I needed to be smarter about the way I was training, and not the way I was training when I was 22, 21 years old is not the way that I should be training now, because then I was a go, hard-headed, you know, I needed to train harder and harder and harder and harder, which it wasn't the case most of the time, because sometimes I wear my body down, I tear my body down, and it's not able to perform at its highest level. So now I needed to train at a smarter level and know when to tone it down and when to pick it up.
Right, and I've even had the chance to talk to various wrestlers in MMA, like for example, your Ben Askrens, your Johnny Hendricks, and even John Dodson, for example, and they all said, they all had a different take on transitioning from that wrestling background to the MMA sport. So, what is your take on that transition? Was it easy for you? What were the difficulties that you faced? What, according to you, was the biggest challenge during this transition period?
It's a it's not it's never easy. It's never easy to step away from the highest level of one sport and step right into the highest level of another sport. As they say, you have to learn to walk, you have to learn to crawl before you can walk, and
Right.
things like that. And it's for me, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't when you're at a high level at something else, and then go to another sport, you have to be open-minded enough to start from the bottom and learn the basics before you start performing at the highest level in that sport. And a big thing to that, a big way to tell that was my one and only loss in the sport. When I came in, wrestling is such a dominant tool in the fight game that I came in, I was getting by on my wrestling. I could take everybody down. I could hold them down. I could, do what I needed to do in that realm. But my jiu-jitsu game wasn't the strongest. I hadn't trained and learned the little tricks of the sport to where I ended up getting caught in my second professional fight, and I got submitted. And since that day, I had to really humble myself in knowing that, hey, yeah, you are at the highest level of this sport. You can't just jump into another sport and expect to be the highest level when you don't know everything about it. So you have to go back and really research and learn everything there is to learn about BJJ as well in order to be the best in this sport. And so, yeah, I had to. That was the hardest transition for me, is that side of it.
Now, coming to your fight at Fight Night 100 against Warley Alves. Now, he's just had a loss against Brian Barberena, but he has beaten some top guys like Alan Jouban before that. Now, the fact that he's just coming off a loss, does that factor into your game plan? And can give us some idea like how you're approaching the fight?
Yeah, I think if you really watch his fights, like, I'm a guy who likes to study.
Oh,
Uh,
his sound went.
we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, now we can.
Or accidentally hit them. No, but if you really watch his fight, I like to study, and I've seen his fights. I believe the fight with Alan Jouban, I think he lost that fight. You
Right.
got to look at that fight. He fought that fight in Brazil. Obviously they're going to give him a fight, but I think he lost that fight. He's a guy that he's a tough guy, very tough guy. He likes to come forward and try to impose his will, but you can look at every one of his opponent and you can see a clear difference from them to me. He's never fought
Right.
anyone like me. And my thing is a lot of people say, oh man, we've never really seen his striking. You've never seen my striking because you've never found anyone good enough to make me use my striking. When you can find someone good enough to stop me from taking them down and beating up their face, then you will see the striking. Hopefully he can be that guy. I would love to really showcase my striking because they're thinking he has the advantage in the striking. He doesn't. I have the advantage in the strike. I have the advantage in the wrestling. I have the advantage in jiu-jitsu. I have all the advantage. I think I'm one of the best, well-kept secret in the division. And, going out and just dominating him like I dominate every one of my guys will show that. I'm one of the best guys in the division, and I just have to show that.
Right, and even during his fight with Barberena, if you see him, how immediately he just came out aggressively, and after the initial round, you could see him gassing out. The other thing was, against Barberena, the interesting that I found out was even in the clinches where he should have had a clear advantage, he did not, and Barberena kept tagging him with the counters. They were. I think couple of holes in his stand-up game, even which I think could be exploited. So, did you study all of those? And of course, you would have. So, what do you think about his stand-up game? That kind of being going up against a wrestler and you're gassing out after the first round. That's not gonna end well. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, one, I hope he changed the way he conditioned for this fight. I hope he really did something. But two, it's not really going to make that big of a difference. Learning, conditioning, and preparing to push the pace for the first time ever in your life, and then going up against a guy who's done it for 12 to 15 years in wrestling. I've trained my body over and over and over and over and over for hundreds and hundreds of wrestling matches, not to ever get tired. Done it in fights, not to ever get tired. You've not seen me in fights sucking wind and getting tired there. And he does. And so it not only is it physical, but it's mental as well. Mentally, you can't push your body to that level that I can push my body to. And so that's a big thing for him. He comes out aggressively, and he everything is hard. He doesn't really know how to mix it up. He likes to throw hard kicks, hard punches to try to intimidate his guys and maybe break them and get him out of there quick, because I think he knows inside he can't push hard for 3 rounds. So you know what? I'm going to go hard and try to get the guy out of there quick. But you saw against the guys that he couldn't get out of there right away, he started gassing, and those guys beat him up. I think Alan Jouban, the same thing. He came out aggressively, tried to get him out in the first round. He didn't do it. Alan Jouban just ended up beating him up, especially like you mentioned in the clinch as well. Alan Jouban did some really good damage in the clinch. So did Barberena did really good damage in the clinch, and eventually got that win.
Right. And what about Rashad Evans? Your thoughts on Rashad Evans' fight getting nixed?
The Rashad Evans fight, they said it was something came up at his MRI.
Right.
It's the first event in New York.
Right.
Like they've been fighting this for years not to have this in New York. So it's not like they welcomed the UFC with open arms for years. No, they've been fighting not to have this in New York. And so the first event, if there's even a question about something, they're gonna blow it up to the utmost proportion. And so that's I feel like that's just what they did. It was an opportunity for them to scratch a fight off the card, and and so they scratched that fight. But Rashad has been pushed to 206.
Right.
And even that's going to be a monumental card, because our other teammate Anthony Johnson is headlining the card. So it's unfortunate, but Rashad is ready. I mean, you can look at his videos and you can see it, the way he's transformed his body, the way he's just transformed his mind. He's re-energized. And especially when you have young guns like Michael Johnson and me and Jason Jackson and other guys in our gym that are really pushing him, it re-energizes, a guy like that. And he's ready. He's prepared.
Right. And you also, so last year when you fought on the tough finale, one other fighter who was on the card was Josh Saman, who recently passed away. So did you have any interactions with Josh? Because, I know for a fact that he's a wonderful person, an amazing rider, an amazing fighter as well. So did you have a chance to interact with him, during the event?
Yeah, Josh actually lives here in South Florida. And I've had a few instances to not just interact with him. We have a mutual friend that's a really, really good friend of his. Like, one of his best friends is a good friend of mine. And so we know each other that way as well. But yeah, I've seen him at several different events, and we'll sit down and we'll spend a little bit of time. Maybe it's 3-5 minutes here and there. We'll just talk and a little bit. And so it was very disturbing and shocking that something like that happened. And it was a hard moment. It was very, very hard to really even think and comprehend. But at the end of the day, God has a greater purpose for everybody, and He has the plan. And so, if God said that was a time for him to come home, and then that was his time on this earth. That was his journey.
Right.
Can you tell us who's been your inspiration at welterweight?
My inspiration at welterweight, man, that's a tough question. It varies, you know. It varies. Like I said, you know, a lot of different. When I first got into when I was putting eyes on the sport, George St. Pierre was the guy. I mean, he was taking everybody out, and you know, then I have friends like Johnny Hendricks who, you know, then stepped in and they were excelling at the highest level. And this was even before I decided that, you know, I should go into MMA. But I would help some guys train here and there, like Jake Ellenberger. I would help him train, and his twin brother Joe Ellenberger, who was my college teammate in wrestling and was a good, really good friend of mine. And so I was exposed to the sport here and there, and so I saw different guys doing it already at a high level. And those guys were all inspirations of me doing it, because when I would train with them and me not knowing anything and starting out, seeing the level that I was at that point, you know, just starting out. And I know that if I put everything into it like I do with all the other sports, there's no telling that there's no way that I couldn't be the best at the sport. And so all those guys were all different inspirations at different times. But, you know, like I mentioned, you must learn to crawl and walk before you can just run. And, you know, that was what I did. Is I had to learn the skills. I had to learn all the different skills, all the different techniques. And when you're doing that, you have to be quiet and learn them. So you don't come out and run your mouth that I'm the best in the world without learning all the different techniques and all the different steps it takes to be there. Now that I've learned that and I'm still learning it, now I can talk and say that I feel like I will be the best in the world.
Okay, well, good that you say that, because you have said that you'll be king of this division. So one of the reasons I asked you that question is you will get your chance for the title shot sooner or later. Who do you envision fighting? Who do you think you are going to be fighting for the title? Do you have like envision in mind?
That's a really good question as well. But I think it's gonna be one of the two guys fighting tomorrow. It's gonna be either Tyron Woodley or it's gonna be Josh Thompson. And the funny thing is, you know, like, I believe in just fate and the way things work themselves out. I've had the pleasure of being around Tyron Woodley a few times. I've even, you know, partied with him, and, you know, we've been in the same, you know, locations. You know, I've talked with him. And also I've had the pleasure of being around Josh Thompson.
Oh, you mean Stephen Thompson?
Stephen Thompson. I've been around Stephen Thompson and talking with him and spending some time. And it's just something about a fighter or maybe a competitor like myself, is when I'm around certain guys that I know there's a possibility of this happening. It's just something about the way that I look at them, the energy that I get from them, the energy that I give off to them. So I've already put that in my mind. I've already, you know, felt that and known it. The only possible other guy could be is Damian Maia. But the thing with Damian Maia is, after I go out and beat up Warley Alves, Damian Maia is next. That's who I'm asking for. That's who's next. Because Damian Maia feels like he's the best grappler in the division, and he's not. I'm the best grappler in the division. You know, he's fought a bunch of guys tough guys, big names, but those guys don't have the skills in the department that I have. And so, you know, Damian Maia is next, and then it's going to be either Tyron Woodley or it's going to be Stephen Thompson, one of the two.
All right. I quickly have two questions with that statement. One, all right. So, firstly, looking at the stylistic matchup between Woodley and Thompson, you'd look at it as the ideal striker versus grappler kind of a situation. So, what do you think about the matchup itself, and who do you see winning between both of them? That's first. And second thing, talking about Damian Maia, many people, even I consider him to be the greatest BJJ practitioner in the world today. So, looking at his BJJ game, if you look at what he did to Condit, for example, he tied him up and submitted him in the first round. No one saw that coming. So, looking at his BJJ game and looking at your own grappling, what do you see as the major difference? Do you see something that you can probably, incorporate in your own game going up against someone like Maya?
Or even exploit in Maya?
Yeah, with the matchup first of all, the matchup with Woodley and Thompson, it's a very intriguing matchup. I mean, very intriguing. It's not you can on paper you can say it's the dynamic striker versus the grappler, but Tyron Woodley hasn't really grappled in his last like 6 fights. You saw that he hasn't really grappled. They got to a point where he just gave it up. He just was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stand and throw hands, and that's good. That's good for the fans. But the thing also is, fans are, fans are funny. It's funny. They're funny people because fans either like you or they don't like you. Like Tyron Woodley knocked out one of the most excitable, I guess, welterweights ever of all time in Robbie Lawler. A guy who just loves to slug and put on a show for the fans. He knocked him out in the first round, quick. Made it look easy. And he still doesn't get any respect. I mean, you can see all through the press conference, they're booing him and things like that. And so fans are funny.
And the amazing thing is there's no reason for them not to like him.
Exactly. He's a clean-cut guy, and speaks well. He's an analyst and things like that. That's what I mentioned. Fans are funny,
But don't you think it's the same case with someone like Daniel Cormier, for example? The more you say like me, the more they dislike you. Something like that.
Exactly. And look at Chris Weidman. You could say the same thing with Chris Weidman. It's fans are funny. They're funny people. I mean, they either just pick and choose, I like him or I don't like him, and then you ask them, why don't you like him? They have no reason. I don't know. I just don't like him. Yeah. They have that feeling. If they don't like you, they don't like you. And look at Eddie Alvarez right now. Eddie's done everything the right way. Yeah. He's fighting in New York, one state away from where he's from, and people are booing him. And so, fans are funny people. They can choose to like you or choose not to like you. And so Tyron Woodley is, he's done his job, but the fans still aren't gravitating towards him. So the style, it's a funny style. He's not. It's not a grappler. If he does choose to grapple, I think that is obviously it's a clear cut. Thompson's weak point is his grappling. You don't see his grappling because no one's really been able to put him there and exploit that. And so.
But Johnny Hendricks did try that. But that
Johnny Hendricks, yeah, you're right. Johnny Hendricks tried it for literally 15 seconds, and if you come off of that, Johnny Hendricks is molded himself into a slugger, like one hand, I'm gonna touch your face and you're going to sleep type of guy. And and when you start doing that, you've done that to a few guys, it's a different confidence that you have in it. And Johnny Hendricks, I think, just might have underestimated it a little bit to where he thought that, this was so easy, I'm gonna do it again if I need to, and that's what he did. He went away from it, and it cost him. But you saw when Johnny Hendricks decides to commit to the grappling game, you saw what he did to guys like Matt Brown. Easy, I'll take him down and just beat him up down there. And so, that's kind of a hole that I think Thompson is where he's kind of has a hole, is that grappling. So I think if Willie decides to go back to his grappling and exploit that, I think he can. But also Willie's is such powerful hands and very explosive to where I think, if he does touch Thompson, he can end the fight there as well. But Thompson is just so dynamic with the way he moves, and he does weird things that, most people shouldn't be able to do. Yeah. To kick with the same leg and bring it over your shoulder and slap you in the face with it. It's just, remarkable things that he can do as well. And so, I just have my eyes on it closely. I think it has the potential to be an extremely exciting fight, or it can be a boring fight where both guys kind of stare at each other. So, it's a good matchup. But also on to the other question. What was the second question again?
About Damian Maia.
Yeah, about Damian Maia, man. Damian Maia BJJ is out of this world. if you're just gonna stay there and roll on the ground with him, he's gonna just roll you up into a pretzel and you know and just make you look silly. But you know, this is not BJJ. This is fighting, and he's
also
what guy
incorporated. He's also incorporated wrestling into his BJJ, which is even more interesting. You know, the Condit fight again, the way he tripped, you know, Condit and got him onto the ground and then just tied him up in knots. That was more phenomenal. You know, he had that single leg, he took him down, then he used his BJJ to get ground control. So, you know, yeah, I mean, just looking at the way he fights, the way he has evolved, and you know, incorporated different styles, it's fascinating.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's definitely picked up more wrestling. He's gotten really good and tough at that. But question is, who has he fought? What wrestler or what guy has he fought that can wrestle like I do? That can grapple like I do? I have zero. I've been taken down 0 times inside the cage, and it will stay 0 until I choose to let somebody take me down to set something up. You know, he's a guy that he's beaten guys with no wrestling. He's worked on his wrestling and gotten it good enough to where he's beaten guys without the wrestling. Matt Brown,
Right.
0 wrestling. Carlos Condit, 0 wrestling. You know, and these guys are tough guys. They have good BJJ, but no wrestling. And
Right.
those two are the counters for each other. When a wrestler slacks off, BJJ is his counter. When a BJJ guy slacks off, wrestling trumps all of that. And so when you have a wrestling base as strong as I am, Damian Maia will not take me down unless I decide to let him take me down, which I don't do. And so I can take him down if I want to take him down. You know, so how is Damian Maia going to deal with a guy like me that takes him down whenever I want and holds him down whenever I want? And then he tries to take me down and he can't take me down. And you've seen in Damian Maia's fights, if he can't take a guy down, what happens? He gets beat up.
Yeah.
Rory McDonald beat him up. He
Right.
fought my former teammate, Ryan LaFleur, and
Yeah.
the first 3 rounds, he took Ryan LaFleur down and just tied him up. But then when he couldn't take Ryan down in the 4th, 5th round, it was a problem. He fought my previous guy, the guy I just fought, Alexander Yankelev. In his Alexander's debut fight, he fought Damian Maia, and Damian Maia was already top 5 in the world. And not only could Damian Maia not finish him, but in the 3rd round, Alexander took Damian Maia down twice. Was beating him up with the stand-up.
Right.
And I think Yankelev maybe hit me 5 times in our last fight, and with kicks. And so it's, you know, if I choose to dominate a guy, it's a different level. You know, when they get in there with me, guys might see me or watch me on TV. Oh, that guy's this is a normal guy. But when they feel my strength, when they feel this African power, they get scared.
Right. And you know, one other thing that I wanted to ask you was, if you have a matchup with Thompson in the future, what is your take on someone who doesn't have that kickboxing Muay Thai white stance, but rather has a karate stance, which is, you know, your side stance, your point fighting stance, which gets very difficult for a wrestler to go for a single leg or a double leg. Double leg is almost impossible, of course, but going for the single leg, you know, he can wiggle himself out, and then that's a problem for the wrestler there. So what is your take on that whole situation?
He is, but a big thing with me is I study so much, and I'm able to adapt to different styles and different guys to where, you know, it's not going to be a problem. I'm going to train for it. And the reason I defer and I tell you that I'm the best grappler in the division is the fact that a lot of guys can't take a guy down in the center of the cage. They can. They rely on having the cage to take a guy down. I can take you down in the center of the cage if I want to, just because I'm smart enough to dictate the distance and the pace and set it up in an appropriate way, which is why George St. Pierre got so dominant later on in his career. When he learned wrestling and he was able to take guys down the center of the cage, you had no other option. One, not only can you, if you're up against the cage, it's almost, I'm going to take you down every time. It's almost it. I'm going to take you down. But when you're in the center of the cage, you know, it poses a different dynamic, but I can also take you down there. So it's, you know, it's a threat that I think a lot of guys have to it's not me adjusting to them because I'm going to do that. It's how they're going to adjust to me.
Right.
Great. So I think we've taken a lot of Kamaru's time, unless you have another question, Akhilesh.
Yeah, if I have to ask one final question, I would love to get his thoughts on Rumble Johnson's fight, because that's going to be, another big fight for Rumble. Of course, big fight for the Brazilians team.
Yeah.
So what is your take on that fight? That's going to be pretty big because we know what happened the first time around, and they both fought.
So,
of course, Rumble has been, amazing after those fights. We've seen what happened with Bader, for example. The more Bader tried to take Rumble down, he did not go down. He had great takedown defense. Obviously, has learned from his mistakes against Cormier. So, what is your take on that fight as well?
And how would he approach it differently than the first time? Yeah.
The biggest thing is when that fight took place, Rumble was training for John Jones. And John Jones, although is an amazing wrestler, and I know that firsthand because we were friends, good friends in college, amazing wrestler. He was training for a different style of fight. And then 2-3 weeks later, now you have to adapt to Daniel Cormier. And Daniel's a different style of fighter. And so I think it was kind of something that Anthony wasn't expecting. And first, he wasn't expecting it. When I tell you the scariest guy in the world, not only physically the way he looks, but if this guy even just throws his hand anywhere close to your face, scary. And so it's just, power like that is very rare. And if he touches your face, you're it's going to break your face or you're going to go to sleep. And so I think now that he's felt Daniel Cormier, he's felt what that feels like. And he knows, it's like knowing that I have a bomb in my hand and I go and fight this other guy that, and I lose to it. Now I know how to adapt to it. Now I know what this guy brings. But it doesn't change the fact that I still have a bomb in my hand. And, and I think that's the thing with Anthony Johnson. Now he knows what Daniel Cormier possesses and brings to the fight. And I think now he's going to be more efficient in the way he approaches it. And, I see it being a new champion.
All right, outstanding.
Awesome.
All right, thank you guys.
We wish you all the best for your fight at Fight Night 100, and we're going to be rooting for you. And thank you so much for being on the show. Can you just give one shout out to the Indian fans and the watching the MMA India show before you go?
Man, before I go, I just want to say thank you to all you guys, both of you guys. Thank you to all the fans in India. MMA is growing there, and even not just MMA, different combat sports are growing there in India. And to this day, everybody asks me what was the favorite country that I ever visited. Besides my own home country, Nigeria, it's India. I love India. I love the people. I love the food. I love the culture. And, thank you to all the Indian fans. And, hope you guys tune in for my fight next weekend.
Thank you.
Of course. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Hi, and we're back. And after that long and exhaustive interview with Kamaru Usman, who is the Ultimate Fighter winner from Blackzilians versus American Top Team, he's with one of the world's top teams right now.
Yes, Blackzilians, outstanding team. You have Anthony Rumble Johnson, Rashad Evans, some of the top fighters on the planet who are from the Blackzilians.
Even Michael Johnson, we should still consider as a great fighter, even though he lost at UFC 205 and he regularly, spars with him.
Yes, and you have someone like Khabib who showed up. When Khabib shows up, that's a bad news for any fighter. If you talk about him calling out Conor McGregor, if that fight ever happens, that's going to be a very, very bad matchup for Conor McGregor. That's going to be a humiliating.
Let's see. We did say he's going to be a bad matchup for McGregor. but we all saw how that went. So I think we should take all of this with a touch of salt. Though I do agree, Khabib looked amazing in that fight.
The thing with Eddie's fight was, I mean, if you have, there's this clip on the internet where you have the cornerman of Eddie Alvarez, screaming and yelling things out because Eddie was not sticking to his plan. Whatever they had decided went out of the window once Eddie, went inside the cage. So, yeah, but Khabib is not.
Khabib doesn't seem like the kind of guy. I loved his personality and the way it came out in this. The way he was calling out Conor, the way he was talking to Dana White between rounds. I mean, quite a character.
The thing is, he was even talking to Michael Johnson when they were on the
Yeah,
round.
I saw that.
He was pounding.
That was pretty interesting.
He was pounding.
Yeah. He was almost "Arey, जाने देना भाई, हार मान ले भाई, अरे हार गया भाई, अपने को world title के लिए fight करने का, अरे जाने देना भाई." It was pretty, if not funny, but interesting,
It's interesting, but put yourself in Johnson's shoes. He was getting pounded on by this guy,
and he was speaking to him, but Johnson was still like, he got that backhanded fist back at him, and Khabib, of course, started giving him the elbows again.
Right, but that's a scary opponent.
Yeah.
Someone who's just on top of you, relentlessly grinding and pounding you, and he's just telling you to quit. He's just saying, I deserve a title shot, just quit. So that's a scary, proposition. But again, going back to the Brazilians, Usman again, they have some amazing
Usman
strikers.
Usman bhai.
So the Brazilians again, tremendous wrestlers, tremendous strikers. So we'll have to see what, as you said, Usman bhai told us during our interview.
Yeah.
We need to see if he sticks to his game plan as well.
Yeah. It looks he's very strong on the ground. His stand-up game is improving every day. With the spotting with the likes of Michael Johnson, who's much quicker. So we have a lot of hopes on him, and he has said that if he wins, which he's very confident he is going to win, he has plans of calling out Damian Maia.
And that might work. If you look at what happened between Thompson and Woodley, and even Dana White came out and said, yes, a rematch is going to happen, and yes, it might happen the next time these two fight. So it's going to be an immediate rematch for Thompson.
But don't you think that's a bit? What do you think Damian Maia might have to say to that? I mean, he's next in line for the title. He might say, I'm going to just wait for the title.
He did say that. He just said, I'm just going to sit out. Even if it's 6 months, even if it's 1 year, I'm just going to sit out and wait for the title shot.
Yeah. He did say, though, unless he said he would take a fight, that if the UFC said that even if he lost, he would still get the title fight. Because he did say that, what if, somebody punches me and I got knocked out and then no more title fight, So he said I would only take up another fight in between if the UFC guarantees that I would still get a title fight after that.
That doesn't make much sense because, again, we have someone like Uriah Faber, for example, who just lost to Dominic Cruz, then fought a relatively unknown in Jimmy Rivera. Again, people knew Jimmy Rivera was a bad news, He was an excellent striker, has some amazing takedown defense, and has that innate ability to, keep his opponent in distance, where Uriah Faber primarily is a wrestler. He shoots in for that single legs and double legs, while Rivera is someone who keeps his opponents at bay. So, Uriah knew he was, a very, very difficult opponent. He still took the fight. He lost. Now he's retiring. Yeah. So, same thing can happen with Damian Maia. Damian Maia is not young.
Yeah.
So he has got a couple more fights left in him as well.
Yeah, well, we wish all the best to Kamaru Usman bhai, and let's hope it goes. Which it does look like he's gonna hopefully get the win, and he will call out Damian Maia, and let's see what happens after that. And we wish him all the best. And Usman bhai ka fight dekhne ka, UFC Sao Paulo, right? Sao Paulo.
Yes, this is in Sao Paulo. Yes.
I think the fights are. I think the UFC Sao Paulo is first, 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. India time, and then Belfast is 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Do you know?
One is a Fight Pass exclusive. I'm pretty sure UFC Belfast is a Fight Pass exclusive.
So they're not both being aired.
No, so I know for a fact that one is I think it's Belfast, it's Fight Pass exclusive.
Okay, so Belfast is a Fight Pass exclusive, and the other one will probably come at 7:30 to 10:30 a.m. India time, like usual, right?
Right.
So the Indian fans won't be able to see this fight card, which is the Sao Paulo one with Kamaru Usman live, since he's on the main fight card.
Right. And Kamaru Usman, even talking about that, we briefly touched upon Alves and how he kind of did not look that great against Barberena during his fight.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, if Kamaru manages to knock this guy out, or gets to submit him in the first round, then things look very good for Usman personally.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially since he is an Ultimate Fighter winner, and they come with a certain spotlight with them.
Yes, you can make a case for John Dodson. So, I mean, if you are coming off winning the tournament itself, it usually, more often than not is a good sign.
Yeah.
Where you are going to go in the UFC.
Okay, well, moving to Mousasi versus Hall 2, which is, as per Akhilesh, going to be exclusively on UFC Fight Pass. So, this is like a revenge match, which seems to be the in thing nowadays. You have that one fight which you felt you shouldn't have lost, which is a freak, and you want to get it back. So you ask for that fight because actually, if you look at the merit of things, Mousasi, after beating Vitor Belfort, though personally I don't rate Vitor Belfort that high anymore because of reasons that we've spoke about, I think, when we did the review of when he did beat Belfort. He went for Hall, who just lost to Derek Brunson, which is again was a little. There was talk of early stoppage, which it did seem to me as well. And Hall, I don't know if we've spoken about this before. Hall is so far wasting his potential. Sometimes he seems so brilliant, and sometimes he just seems lazy.
Right. I mean, I've said this before, time and again. I'm a big fan of Hall, but I get so frustrated and annoyed when I watch Uriah Hall.
Exactly.
Even if you look at and I don't know how he is before a fight, but I've in fact saw him in Australia where he fought Whittaker, and before the fight he was just sitting on his chair. He was not, he was just lost in his own world. I have no idea what was going on. The fight with Whittaker was underwhelming. Then his previous loss against Brunson. You have a guy with immense potential, all the potential in the world, and he's just wasting all of it. I don't know what's going wrong with Uriah. I know, some consider him to be that one flashy guy that just gets lucky sometimes, and most of the times gets the tougher fighters.
Yeah.
I don't look at it that way. I think Uriah Hall, one of the best talents in the division right now, and he's going to fight a Mousasi who's game.
Yeah.
His fight with Belfort is someone who just is aggressive. In the first round, he just comes at you, but second and third, he just withers away. At that point, Mousasi kind of weathered the storm in the first round. Then he was brutal. What you saw against Vitor Belfort is the Gegard Mousasi that everybody knows.
Yeah.
So if that guy is going to show up, Hall has his, he has a very tough task.
And Mousasi has won 5 of his last 6 fights. I think that's the 5 of his last 6, right? And the only loss was to Hall.
Yes. So and that too, it was something that I don't think Mousasi was prepared for, because it was a spinning back kick that Mousasi didn't see coming. But that is where Hall excels. He has those flashy moves.
Yeah, but I think it's like Jose Aldo saying, "Oh, I wasn't ready for that." Left, cross from McGregor. So,
yeah, and the thing is, this was, I think, in the first 10 seconds of the second round. The first round ended, I remember Mousasi winning it. Second round, the fight started again. Within those 5-6 seconds, Hall connected with that spinning back kick, and that was it. Then he connected with the knee, and ended the fight.
Yeah.
But this time around, I'm pretty sure Mousasi is going to be, a very different fighter.
That, of course.
Yeah, he's going to be very wary of that. But again, saying positive things about Hall always ends negatively. So I'm just going to refrain from doing that.
Yeah. I think one thing I've really liked recently is the way Musasi's personality has come out. You know, the post press conference, of his last fight, he really, kind of opened up and showed a new side of him. And even after that, a couple of his tweets and statements saying, I think McGregor threatened him with a knife or something. Pretty interesting the way he's come out. And I think we've seen recently that leads to much bigger fights.
Yeah.
That gets you the
so
fights
the thing
nowadays.
is, as a fighter, you need to market yourself.
Just like we've seen Khabib get the spotlight for a fight with Conor McGregor, and Ferguson's name kind of faded out because he didn't, speak out enough.
Right. So as a fighter, that is where UFC has changed with the WME IMG regime. Everybody kind of understands that unless you put your name out, unless it's a marketable fight, you're not going to get those big money fights. So Musasi, he was always a soft-spoken guy. Has tremendous record. I mean, he has won titles in Dream. He has won titles in Strikeforce. I think he won 4 titles. He's a 4-title champ. Coming to the UFC. But again, when he jumped from Strikeforce to UFC, if you look at the previous 5 years, the first couple of years, Anderson Silva was at his peak. Then Weidman happened. Then it went through a transition. The division itself went through a transition. At this point, I would say Musasi deserves at least a top 3 contender, top 3, top 4. But everyone was booked. You had your Jacare and Rockhold already booked. You had your Romero and Weidman booked. You had Bisping who said, "I'm not going to fight Musasi. I'm going to have a money fight."
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Musasi said, "Screw it. I'm just going to get back."
I was just going to fight all again and get that loss back.
Right. So he said, "I'll avenge my loss to Hall," which again, that was a very unfortunate incident. I would really love to see what's in store this weekend.
Well, yeah, let's see how that fight goes. Now, before we move on to Bellator 165, again an amazing fight card, at least the top 2 fights, and Invicta FC20, the MMA India team was present at the Brave press conference in Mumbai, where they announced plans for India and also spoke about Brave 2, which is about to happen December 2nd in Iran. And so, here's the footage.
Just if you want me to give you an answer on focusing just on India, I've been fighting here in India, and what I see is fighters who have passion. Every country, all the fighters have passion, but when it comes to India, the one difference that I see is we were talking about the fighters and their fights. I know that the fighters are not made for giving speeches, not am I, but so I understand that. But when I saw Abdul Munir fight with Marcia Fullen, and we were discussing about that fight today, and what I said was one important thing is that everybody in the crowd in Bahrain, when they're watching the fight and they saw Abdul Munir coming out of with the Indian flag, and they saw Marcia Fullen. If you guys don't know who Marcia Fullen is, he's considered the #1 up-and-coming prospect in Mexico, and he's fought in the UFC, considered as one of the largest promotions till Brave Combat Federation comes in. But he's one of the biggest stars we have in Brave Combat Federation. And Abdul Munir, when I gave him a call and I told Munir, you're going to fight Marcia Fullen, he went out, searched who Marcia Fullen is, and the next call I got back was, I'm in. Yeah, so one of the things I want to do is I don't want to be like one of those top promotions in the world. You look at the biggest promotion in the world and they claim themselves to be the global promotion. I say they're not a global promotion, they're the promotion that has a global attention. What Brave Combat Federation wants to do is to truly be a global promotion by not only going there, taking the Indian fighters, taking the European fighters and make them compete in my hometown, which is easier for me, but rather I want to come to their hometown and make events that is relevant to their market, that makes them understand more deeply and attached to the event itself. So yes, 2017, I'm looking to have, I hope you guys don't quote me on this, but I'm looking to have 6 to 10 events in India. I don't want to go with one event. I want to go with 6 to 10 events in India, and I'm taking that risk in the press conference to say that, to make sure that I can make it happen. So what I want to do is I want to come here and show that our fighters, just like cricket, just like Bollywood, has international fans, international recognition. When have we last seen, to be honest, forget the Olympics, It is what, the second biggest viewed event, I guess, after World Cup. So forget the Olympics. Apart from Olympics, when was the last time we had the international world going crazy on any of our athletes? Now let me ask you another question. Professional boxing has never been in India. So combat sports and entertainment business, the fight business, which is the fastest growing business in the world, and fight business is the biggest event in sports when you take the top 5 list. Athletes or events. The biggest ones in Madison Square Garden today or before the last event, it's always been fight business. But what happened? Why isn't it growing in India? Number one, we never had it before. Boxing was never there in India, so the education of the public of what these athletes are very less. So we need to educate them more. And with your platforms and media, I'm sure that in the next 1 year, with a lot of relevant events and having to see more contents of what they do behind the scenes through Brave Combat Federation, I'm sure they're going to be more educated about what these fighters go through. But most importantly, I'm here to make sure that the world sees what they go through. And believe me, when the world appreciates your athletes, we will appreciate them too, because we know how important they are for us, and as long as that hasn't been happening in India, we'll always be behind the sports. I'm not talking about cricket, anything in that matter, any industry for that matter, who's having international recognition. So if I don't have the international recognition or the platform to get international recognition, why cry about it, So today we have it. Today is the day that we're going to bring in the fastest growing sport in the world, the fight business, which we've been craving to have in India. We're bringing that here. We've had regional events. They've done nothing to give us international recognition anywhere else. And I love the regional events is to build the fighters. And that's why today when I come here, I have top fighters to select from the country. So we're going to give it the international recognition. And when we give the international recognition, and believe me, when you realize that the whole Europe and the whole Ireland, the whole Middle East is going crazy on one of your fighters, believe me, you'll really be filled with pride. And that feeling of pride, I think we want to bring it back to the Indian people for their athletes. And Brave Combat Federation will do that. Yeah, I won't be able to tell you at this point, but no, we are not just looking at regional TV channels. We are a global promotion, so we're looking at international global TV deals. And in the next week, we have already closed some big deals on network channels that's going to cover almost a lot of Asia. And guys, it's just imagine it's just a second event in Brave Combat Federation. We haven't even started, and we already have the biggest networks in the whole of Asia covering us, and we'll be showing these networks in USA, Canada, Italy, and Germany. We're going to have the exposure gone over. So all the Indian fighters, never before have they got this exposure where the whole Asia is watching them and international world is watching them. So we're going to provide that for them. But yes, I want to make sure that India is also going to be a part of it, and we're very close with closing some deals in India for the network deals, and you'll hear some insane news is coming out for the next 2 to 3 weeks from Brave Combat Federation. But yeah, that's going to happen soon. So what we are seeing right now is amazing. So we have Diego Maradona is the name of the legend that you must be wondering. So Maradona is a big fan of Othman Azaitar, one of the biggest stars in the Middle East as fighters. So he and many other fighters who we signed for Brave Combat Federation has a lot of international exposure, and that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to give them international exposure, and you see guys like Maradona that we saw in the few weeks back, I think, supporting Brave Combat Federation, supporting Othman Azaitar, and then we have, I'm not much into that industry, but I know that Lady Gaga's and U2, their music, their song director was also a part of supporting this. We had so many MMA athletes supporting. We had legend Frankie Edgar supporting Brave Combat Federation. So we have a lot of international people supporting Brave Combat Federation. And I think what you saw in our first Brave Combat Federation event was we had almost 300 plus VIPs all around the world, from royals to ambassadors to presidents of different sports come down to our event. And that is what our event stands for, and it's always going to be that way. It's Diego Maradona is the first one, maybe the first or second one, but it's just going to keep rising from there. We're going to have, you will see a lot more celebrities come into the fight business. And you need to understand that when we saw some of the biggest boxing events, you'll see movie stars and celebrities from all different industries come down to a fight business, because fighting is fighting, man. So we're going to bring that to India. We're going to bring that to worldwide, where it's going to be building back that old school fight business, where we're going to have all the celebrities come down and see two guys fight with each other who claims to be the number one fighters in the world, and see who's going to be coming out on top. And I think what you'll see in India is a combination of sports stars, celebrities, politicians, all of them coming together into finding who's the strongest man in the world. And believe me, guys, whether you whether you accept this with me or no, we all admire the strongest man in the world. We all want to know who's the strongest man in the world at one point of our life or the other. And that is why, if you look at it, we have so much respect for people who have done that, whether it's Muhammad Ali or whether it's Bruce Lee, who's not even fought in his life. We've always had respect for these guys, and they've paved way for the youth to be inspired and believe that we can be the strongest man in the world. And we all every day wake up in the morning and try to do that. And I think that's what fight business is all exciting about. And I think the whole world is going to come together. What you saw in Maradona is just the first step of it. The card that we put up for December 2nd it's the year-ending card for us. So it was insane. I mean, when we were making the fight card, and I was like, this cannot happen. Because if I'm going live on TV, they're not going to play all my 10 fights. They're going to play 6 of my fights. And the other 4 are going to be just not going to be on TV. And I'm like, who am I going to make the last 4? You know, I got to push them up and down. It was tough for me. I mean, we had a very tough discussion. We all had to sit down and do a board meeting just to figure out how we're going to match up these guys. Because you have Marcia Full and Alan Omar, 2 guys, veterans in the sport, have excellent records, and they're going to come back to fight each other for the title. The first featherweight title, or the first title fight in Brave Combat Federation. Co-main event is undescribable. You have Russian Gadzi Musa from Russia. This guy knocked out. I mean, so he came in Brave 1. We had Thiago Vera, who's considered number 1 prospect in Brazil. And I was like looking at this guy, and I'm like, he's not 77. The guy must be like 100 kgs, and he's fighting at 77. The guy looked amazing. He's 6'1" tall. He's a complete fighter. And I was like, that's going to be our superstar. And I was telling everybody, this is going to be our superstar. And then his fighter pulls out halfway through the fight. And then 5 days notice, we had to get somebody. We have 5 days to go, and we brought in Gadzi Musa from Russia. Big mistake. So he comes in, knocks Thiago Vera cold out. Me as a promoter, hurt me. But it was amazing. It was amazing to see that guy has palms for hands. Guess what? He's fighting Carl Booth at the co-main event. And Carl Booth is just like him, a monster who doesn't want to do technical fighting. He's going to come there to swing his hands and put the other guy to sleep. So what I thought was, let's put them both together and see some fireworks happen, you know? So we sit back and we watch that co-main event. It's going to be exciting. I don't think it's going to go over the first round. Somebody's going to go to sleep. So it's just about who's going to go to sleep. I can't believe that Carl Booth is going to lose, nor Gadzi Musa. And that's what makes the fight exciting. Have you seen Rocky movie? I love boxing. Believe me, I love boxing. For my life, for me, when I watch boxing, I don't want anybody to talk. I watch always alone because I love the science behind it. You know, I see the feet, I see everything. To a guy like that, if you ask me, I would say that when I saw Rocky boxing, even if you go back now on your YouTube and check for Rocky boxing, if you knew boxing, you'd be like, I don't know, you know. I don't know if that's proper boxing, but who cares, man? I mean, Rocky inspired me. I trained for 2 years with Rocky music, you know. So it inspired me, inspired a lot of youth. And I think Salman Khan doing that inspired a lot of youth. That's all I care about from him. I don't want him to execute the technique properly. And that's not what I ask from him. He didn't train 15 years. If you ask me that, if it's about technique, then make me go act in Sultan movie. Will it be as famous? No. Will you all watch it? No. I want the world to watch it. So let's put Salman Khan in. He's our superstar. We love Salman Khan. So let him go there and do that for us. And we will really do the real thing of teaching the techniques properly. So we'll sharpen the techniques. Salman Khan, go and inspire the world. I love what he does. I'm a big fan.
And you're back with the MMA India Show and Parvin and Akhilesh. And we are going to talk Bellator 165. It's very unfortunate that Bellator doesn't air anymore in India right now. It did air some years back. I forgot if it was up to last year when big channels were on air. Unfortunately, Big went off air, and with them, Bellator went as well. And Scott Coker has spoken about bringing a fight to India and tying up with a channel here, since Viacom is one of the owners and Viacom is huge in India. So I think that would be, great, because bringing a fight card to India could bring a lot of interest back into the game. Michael Venom Page is on this fight card. He has fought in the SFL in the past. Unfortunately, people didn't know much about him at that time. He is, according to me, one of the best MMA fighters on the planet right now. He is such an amazing fighter, and he's so entertaining. I mean, I would love to see him fight, with one of the top guys in from the UFC. Just imagine what a Michael Venom Page, Conor McGregor fight would be like.
So this is, one of the things that even I think is too early, or we do not have enough proof of Venom's abilities. For example, whoever he fought in Bellator weren't those prime guys.
He is,
Bellator
he is 11-0, and he did break Cyborg's head, I think, in his last fight or last fight. And
right, with the knee.
With his knee, and nothing even happened to him.
Yes, again, the thing is, unless you put him against the top fighters, something. If, for example, you have a Michael Venom Page against a Rory McDonald in Bellator, A, it would bring a lot of interest, and B, it would show how Venom actually does against your top ranked fighters in the world. Whoever is fought, no offense to any of them, but they are nowhere compared to the elite athletes that UFC has.
Yeah.
At the top of the welterweight division. So I really want to see what happens when Venom actually faces one of those top contenders. As I said, Rory McDonald. Give him a Rory McDonald and see what happens.
Well, I'm sure that I'm sure that will be in Scott Coker's mind right now, because that is the money fight.
That is the money fight, but I don't know if Scott Coker wants that, because so let's see what let's take parallels here.
I would say eventually he would want it. Maybe not right
eventually.
now, because he would not want to destroy either of the fighters. Right now, he wants to build them up a little bit more.
Right. So, drawing parallels to what UFC has done with someone like, say, Paige Van Zandt. Paige demolished her way through, those top 15 people. But once she was put in against Rose Namajunas, the top number 3 ranked fighter in the world, she was outclassed.
Yeah.
No two ways about it. She was outclassed, and UFC kind of understood that that was a mistake. It was a bad matchup, but it was already a mistake. It was way too soon for Paige Van Zandt, and something similar is happening with Michael Venom Page. So again, excellent striker. His karate is amazing, kickboxing amazing. But again, I would want to see him get into a fight with those top elite fighters to judge him.
Well, I guess very soon that will happen. Until then, he's going to keep entertaining everybody who is able to watch Bellator, which, doesn't include many Indian fans, except for those who, find ways of streaming it, or we would not suggest any illegal ways of watching the match ourselves. Coming down to the lightweight title fight, Benson Henderson versus Michael Chandler. Benson Henderson, of course, an ex-champ from the UFC, moved over to Bellator, and not having such a great time since he has.
He has fought 2 times, and he has won 1, lost 1, and the fight that he won, he was getting, mauled. Yeah. It was against Patrice Frere, and he was just getting mauled. The only thing that saved him was in the second round. I was watching the fight live, and I could not believe what Benson Henderson was doing. He was way too hesitant to pull the trigger. He was just standing back. He was not going in. Patricio, he created distance. He said, come in. We'll dish it out. Benson was not. He was way too hesitant to pull the trigger. And yeah, you do that with someone like Mike Chandler, who's an excellent wrestler. That's not gonna fly. So even the loss that he had against Koreshkov, that was a fight where he got again. Koreshkov just was way too dominant. It was not the kind of Benson Henderson that we grew accustomed to in the UFC. Ever since his log against Anthony Pettis, he's been on a winning-losing streak. He won 1, lost 1, won 2, lost 2, went to Bellator, lost his first fight, won his second fight, but he was not winning the fight. Patricio was injured in the second round with a leg kick that he threw that Henderson checked, and he tore his MCL, I believe. But he was not winning the fight. The first round went easily to Patricio. So even going into 165, I wanted to see Patricio and Mike Chandler. No offense to Benson Henderson again, because there was history. Mike Chandler already fought Patricio's younger brother, Patrick Freire, and lost. I mean, Patrick Freire lost, Mike Chandler won. So, Patricio was saying, you beat my brother, now I'm going to beat you and take the title. So there you had an interesting storyline development.
Bhai ka badla. That's like a Moin Desai story. Bhai ka badla main lunga, bhai ka badla.
Right. So you even had that kind of storyline going on with Patricio and Chandler. But Benson Henderson got his title shot yet again. He faced Koreshkov for the title in the first fight. Now his third fight, he's going to fight for the title again. Let's see. I just want to see the old Benson Henderson back.
Michael
the guy
Chandler
who was
also has had an interesting history at Bellator. We had an unbeaten run for some time until he ran into Eddie Alvarez.
Eddie Alvarez, right.
And
so he beat Eddie Alvarez in the first fight
and then the second brief match he lost. And then, of course, Eddie Alvarez came to UFC. Will Brooks became the champ. He lost to Will Brooks, and then after Will Brooks came to the UFC, he beat Derek Campos for the title.
Right. And, again, no offense to anyone, because losing to someone like Eddie Alvarez or Will Brooks is not, a bad thing, because Will Brooks, in my view, is probably the best or the most well-rounded fighter in the world today, or at least in the lightweight division. So losing to someone like Will Brooks is not a bad thing. And similar, you can say the same thing about Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez defeated Pettis. He was on a hot streak, defeated Rafael Dos Anjos, won the title. So you kind of know that he's an elite fighter.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting matchup. It's a really, really good wrestler in Chandler versus a really, really good striker in Benson Henderson, who is going through a slump. Unless he can get over that. And MMA Labs is currently going through a crisis, I think, with the fighters losing.
Yeah.
But I really, really hope Benson finds his form back.
Yeah, well, it just takes one fight to get your form back, and let's hope it's this one. Either way, it's going to be an incredible matchup, a good fight. I think they can both bring it, to the octagon, and let's see what happens. Now, moving on to Invicta FC 20. There are two title fights at bantamweight and strawweight. Tonya Evinger versus Kunitskaya. And Angela Hill versus Colleen Medeiros. Now, Colleen Medeiros, of course, that's for the strawweight title where Angela Hill is the champion. Colleen Medeiros got the title fight after beating our own homegrown Manjeet Kolikar. Which it says a lot for Manjeet Kolikar that she got the title fight after that. And I would really want to point out that you've obviously talked to Manjeet Kolikar, and she broke her hand. She broke her hand.
In the second round. So many were impressed, but in the third round she had to keep her distance because obviously with a broken hand it's hard to fight. But and Kaylin Medeiros, this shows the kind of opponent Medeiros is. It's not a bad thing to lose to someone like Kaylin, and that too with unanimous decision in the first fight in Invicta. But again, talking about the fight itself, Kaylin, even before Manjeet fought, I had to I did a little research on what Kaylin Medeiros, her strong points, what she can do. Excellent wrestler, really, really strong striker. She used to fight at 125. Now she's dropped down to 115. Packs a lot of power. Obviously, that overhand right that many try to get away from. Has that one punch knockout power. Really, really good wrestler. Solid takedown defense. And Angela Hill again, she fought in the UFC. Didn't do that great.
She lost 3 fights in a row, and of course won 3 fights in a row once she moved to Invicta and became the champ. Right.
So, and this is before Kaylin, Alexa Grasso was supposed to fight Angela. After her win at Invicta FC 18, a lot of people thought Alexa Grasso would be fighting for the title next. But Grasso was called to the UFC. So now you have an opening for Kaylin Medeiros, who said, and she picked up her victory at Invicta FC 19, immediately called out Angela Hill, got a title shot at Invicta FC 20. So stylistically, it's very intriguing. One really solid striker versus one really solid who has that one punch knockout power, devastating power in her right hand. So pretty interesting matchup, I think.
Yeah. Well, coming back to the bantamweight, Tonya Avenger was also in the Ultimate Fighter, and she lost to Rachel Pennington over there.
Yeah. So it's funny because I talked to Tonya last week, and one thing that people keep asking her, and she hasn't lost a fight in about 5 years. 2011, she's on a 9-fight win streak.
Okay.
And I asked her, why do you think the UFC hasn't called you yet? And especially with even Arina Aldana, who was recently called up to the UFC, that just leaves Tonya Avenger because she's an elite fighter, number 9 ranked, I think, pound for pound fighter in the bantamweight division, women's bantamweight division. So that's a really talented fighter who's, again, 35. She said, look, I'm 35. I'm not going to beg anyone. I'm not going to beg any company to take me. I'm perfectly happy in Invicta. But yes, if you ask me, yes, I would like to fight in the UFC. The only reason, she hasn't been called up yet, I think, is because she's very outspoken. Let's just put it that way. She's very outspoken. So, she had differences with Sean Shelby, the UFC matchmaker. But, she said, you know what, I'm not dying to get into the UFC. If I get into the UFC, that's perfect. If I don't, I'm perfectly happy fighting for Invicta. And, talking about her game itself, very solid stand-up, very good, ground game. She's a beast, she gets to the ground, has that ground and pound that can overwhelm any kind of an opponent. And that is why she hasn't lost a fight in about 5 years, 9-fight unbeaten streak. And she's going to fight Yana, who's making a promotional debut in Invicta, solid striker. I think Invicta is kind of running out of opponents for even Tonya Avenger.
Yeah.
So let's see.
That's why they got the new kid on the block who straight away gets a title fight.
Yes. So again, if you really look into their aspects and how much they have fought and their experience, you can easily say Tonya Avenger wouldn't have too many problems in getting over Yana. So what if that happens? What if she disposes of Yana? Who else do you have in 135? Tonya said, what? If that's the case, I can move down to 125. I'll fight for the 125 title. So she is open to going down to flyweight, getting that title as well. She already spoke about going back to 145, a division with Cyborg is the champion of, but Cyborg is in UFC once again. She said, hey, I'm open to going to 125 and 145.
Well, great. Well, a weekend full of fights.
Yes.
A weekend full of fights. And just so everybody knows, Invicta is available on UFC Fight Pass, which is subscription-based. But the first week is free. So if you want to take a subscription, now is the weekend to do it. Because you have Invicta and UFC Belfast both coming live on UFC Fight Pass. So now is the time to get your subscription if you want to. And remember, the first week is free. So having said that, I think we have a great show all wrapped up for today. And we will be back soon with Akhilesh and me to review most of these fights that we've spoken about. And we will be back with you soon. This is me, Parvin Dabas, signing off. You have anything else to say, Akhilesh, or I'm going to sign off for you as well?
Just watch, Invicta FC 20, which is tomorrow at 5:30. It's going to be Invicta always. I always,
time?
Make it a point. Yeah, 5:30 Indian time tomorrow.
PM?
I always make it a point to watch
PM?
the Invicta fights.
PM?
5:30
PM?
Tomorrow 5:30 a.m. Indian time.
Okay. So tomorrow morning,
5:30 a.m.
5:30
Yeah.
a.m. India time, Invicta is going to come on UFC Fight Pass. Watch it. This is me, Parvin Dabas, signing off. Thank you, Akhilesh, for joining us again, and we will see you soon.